Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. I am Evan Irwin, and we begin, as we do, with a very special episode of introducing my two co-hosts and our special guest. Aaron, how you doing?
Bonjour.
Yeah, Ruben.
I'm so glad you pulled out the bonjour. How you doing, Evan?
Wow, pulled out the bonjour. Now, Helene Bergeot, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, nice to see all of you.
It's so good to have you here. We're very excited. Our first ever interview. Which is pretty
We
cool.
broke out the fourth panel for you, Helene.
Right.
There's a
I see that.
right there.
Oh, it's this way? Okay.
No, for,
Well,
you,
mostly
for me,
we
it's
just-
this way. For you,
Oh.
it's that way.
Okay.
Mostly Evan and I just wanted to be further away from Aaron.
Oh,
Not that our guest needs any introduction.
wow.
But you are
Helene,
the
I've got
direct...
some inside dirt on this Ruben Bressler. If you're looking for an investigation, if you're a little bored, I got
Wow,
you. Got
for
you.
investigations, you say.
Yeah.
So we're here, and for those who have checked out Wizard's website at this point, you know a little bit of what we're going to talk about. But there was an article that went up today, and we wanted to talk to Helene personally about it because it's really sweet. The big thing is we're bringing back nationals. Nationals.
Yep.
Yay.
I love that we're bringing back
Nationals are sweet. Everyone loves
I
nationals.
wasn't
That is
around
the
for
head-
nationals.
Helene,
Yeah, you were missing out.
tell us the story of how we went from zero, like no nationals, to now nationals.
Well, so just like we have to go back in the past, I think it's very useful just like to get a big picture about what was happening. And nationals has always been a tournament that is loved by many, including us. I can speak for myself, but when I joined Wizard of the Coast nationals, French nationals was the first tournament that I was really experienced, and that level of energy, just like looking at how the community was getting together, it was really something different, and I've been hooked since. And so just like, and we have that level of energy also from players, from judges, everybody being involved with nationals always loved the tournaments. However, a few years ago, because regularly we look at all our different programs, and a few years ago we had identified that nationals was becoming an issue in a number of countries because we were not having in place a structure of organizers just able to run this type of tournament. And then it means that all the attention, all the energy of a given country was focused on running one single tournament, which was nationals, because they've always this love for nationals, instead actually of also having some resources in terms of time and energy being dedicated just like to build the local scene, which is really important to develop local communities. And that's why we had just like to look for an alternative solution. And this is how we introduced the World Magic Cup qualifiers, because we still wanted to have a tournament like the World Magic Cup, but we'd offer to a lot of different countries the chance to represent their countries on the big scene, and just like to experience what's playing at that level of play means. But we had to find an alternative for nationals, and this is how the World Magic Cup qualifiers were introduced, because like this, they were meant to be smaller tournaments, and that where we could have every single year 3 different events, so helping us like that year after year, training local organizers and working with them to run better events. But as I was saying, just like every year, we just like look at our programs and check what is what we need to change, improve, or just like also remove as programs. And nationals has always been on our list, to be honest. Nationals has always been on the list of programs that we were just looking for to bring back. And so we were thinking that this year we were probably like ready to move in that direction.
So what do you think so was there a particular aspect of the World Magic Cup qualifiers that you didn't like, or do you feel like it was just about sort of training up the people who are able to really run a big event well?
So just like the World Magic Cup qualifiers did really fulfill their goal, which was like about 2 goals actually, which was like make sure that we would qualify people for the World Magic Cup, because that's the primary need of the program. And then, yes, during the 5 years we have been running World Magic Cup qualifiers, we had the opportunity to train some organizers. Of course, just like it's not only through the World Magic Cup qualifiers, it's more just like in a more generic environment where during the past 5 years we have been working very closely with local stores just to help them just like bring more and larger, different type of events to their local players.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. So, so before I hand it off to Erin, she's got a few questions, so we kind of go around the room and table here. I would note that when I started playing the Magics back when the rocks were soft, I loved states. States led to regionals. Regionals led to nationals.
Led to nationals. That's
Just
how
saying.
I came up too. That is an old school. Look, the way that I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Not that the devil needs an advocate, but I personally love nationals, and it does work as a system much better for big countries like the United States, Brazil, Russia. Even Japan, even countries the size of like Germany, but I thought that the WMCQ program worked better for smaller, more consolidated countries. Things like countries like the Czech Republic, Sweden, even where there aren't a ton of players in northern Sweden, and they were all pretty well centralized. So I would real quickly ask if there was any consideration of having sort of a dual system where the countries where the WMCQ system, which works really well for smaller countries, I remember when they introduced this, and all the players from, for example, Portugal were ecstatic that this had changed. If there was any consideration of doing sort of the countries where nationals works better, do nationals, but the countries where the WMCQ system, keep those, or would that be too complicated of a trial?
That's a very good question, because it's true that just like it's extremely complex to find a solution that works for everybody, and especially in the context of something just like nationals, because Magic is played in a lot of different countries. The World Magic Cup last year had 73 countries. So of course, it's just like you have some super small countries now, such as Luxembourg, which is like the state of Washington is larger, and just like you have just like massive countries where just like with some very strong player centers, but very being located very far from each other. So actually, since we introduced the World Magic Cup qualifiers on a regular basis, having a dual system is a piece of feedback that we receive from players. They were saying, "Hey, because the ones who didn't understand why we had to switch to a different system were saying, maybe it's cool for the smaller countries, because it's true that we designed that also for smaller countries in the first place. But what about having nationals for larger countries?" And I've been looking at models like that, but we also always reach the point where you might end up disappointing players because they feel like, well, why is my neighboring country having that, and why can I not have that?
Right.
And we are interacting on a regular basis with a group of pro players, just to make sure that we can, test the ideas that we're working on, get their feedback, so that we can discuss, things that we're talking about internally with their local communities. And we had discussed a specific example where I was saying, how would you feel if, let's say that we decide to run back nationals in 5 countries, the 5 larger Magic countries, everybody else has World Magic Cup qualifiers. And of course, as usual, we just have the people being in the countries where they have nationals say, I'm fine with that. And then people say, yeah, but I'm in Sweden, just like, I don't like that. I want to have the same thing.
Sure.
And that's, and that's why, we actually have been waiting for a few years to feel that just like now we are reaching the stage where we feel that 80% of the countries are ready to move back to nationals. So that seems like it's a good time to make that change.
Kind of push the other 20%.
All right, fair enough.
To kind of
bring them along. Yeah.
I think the other half of it is that there's a very important branding element. Like, it just feels better to explain to
Yeah.
your parents or uncles or whatever. Like I went to nationals, right? They understand
Yeah.
that. They get that.
Yeah.
Like
The
I'm the national
qualification
champion.
system being simplified is much better
Right.
for a
It's just-
number of reasons. But yeah, visibility certainly helps.
Right. It's just tougher just to give it a moniker. However, I'm going to hand off the reins to Aaron. Aaron, let's cheer to chat about what you would like to talk about from the announcement.
So we've talked a little bit about replacing the World Magic Cup qualifier program. I want to talk about the World Magic Cup itself for a little bit. You mentioned that we're going to be returning to 3-person teams at the World Magic Cup, which I think we can all agree is fantastic. And what prompted this change?
The change was really prompted by peers' feedback. It's interesting because we had decided to go for 4-person team, primarily because we were concerned about the situation where one of the members of the team cannot make it, and say, oh, that would be extremely sad for the team not to be able to play, because you just build your expectations, say I'm going to represent my country, and all of a sudden you are there just like you're just like sitting in the halls and looking at over 72 countries play. That's why we had started the 4-person team, but specifically the past 2 years, a number of the people competing in the World Magic Cup were telling us that they had this feel bad moment where they felt that just like say, hey, if you're the one who is not playing, you feel like you are really benched. It's not really fun. On top of that, that was sometimes triggering some, very difficult conversations between the different teammates. Who is going to just like be playing, who is not going to play, and this is not the spirit of the event. We want, every single person in the team feel that they are contributing, feel engaged, and stuff like that. And so we tried actually during the last World Magic Cup just tournament, which was where was it? I forgot, sorry. In Rotterdam. I'm living in the future, so I forgot, I'm sorry. So, we tried, actually, because we had a team who was not having all these team members. And we say, okay, what if we say, you play, and then it means that only 2 of you are here. It means that, you have to win.
Right.
Each of you has to win. And it worked okay. So based on that, we're saying, if it makes everybody feel better, let's go back to a 3-person team. I think it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think.
I want to talk about. Oh, sorry.
No, I just want to mention really quickly. I think there's definitely there's a non-zero amount of there's plenty of ego in Magic. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And when you got 4 people vying for 3 spots,
right,
it's
tough.
Probably get a little uncomfortable time to time.
And I also real briefly wanted to touch on the way that the 3-person team is being built, because the way back when the rocks were soft, the national team was the top 3 finishers at nationals, and then the 4th player to make the semifinals but not advance to the finals and then lose the 3rd place game was the quote unquote alternate. Then when we switched to the WMCQ system, when we had the 4-people team, it was the captain as well as the 3 tournament winners. The way that we're returning makes a lot more sense to me, which is you get the captain and then you get the 2 finalists, rather than having this awkward bronze medal match that I remember was kind of a weird situation to be having going on. I mean, Evan and I know a former 4th place finisher named Marsh Usari, who was the alternate for the United States, I think, international winning team that year.
Yeah.
Which was...
This was what, Cheon?
This was Cheon, Sam Black, Michael Jacob.
Yeah.
And Marsh was the alternate. And that was just an awkward... I mean, it's always a weird situation to be like, yeah, I'm kind of on the national team, but also kind of not. And, that was a weird situation. So I really like the way that this is being done.
Oh, thank you. And the good thing is that when we go from one program to another, we always try just like to learn what worked really the best about the program, and the fact that we have identified the top pro being the team captain is really something that players have been just like really behind. So that's why we also kept that change. And I know I'm glad to hear that you also feel that it feels more natural than the different setups that we had in the past.
Yeah, it's really good. Go ahead, Aaron. We won't interrupt.
So I want to touch on the formats a little bit. You mentioned the last World Magic Cup, which I really enjoyed because you guys were trying the Team Modern format. I'm a big fan of Modern, and I noticed that in the future, it's going to be the World Magic Cup is going to be standard. And if I understand that correctly, does that mean that there's going to be no limited portion at all?
This is absolutely correct. And this is I expect this to be like the very first question that players are going to ask. The reason is that we want to simplify a little bit the way the tournament works. We have been trying a number of different things, as you know, over the years, and there is always the concern about especially tournaments like the World Magic Cup, where we give the opportunity for players who have not necessarily been playing at that level of competition. So there is the concern about making sure that they can get prepared, and running only one format is makes it easier for everybody to be prepared, because they don't have to just to go for 40 different formats. And there's, as I mentioned in the article, we are really looking at just highlighting and focusing more on the formats that are just for the current ones, which are highlighting the most recent cards, because we feel that they are more accessible to all. And so that's why I say, hey, let's focus on standard.
And like I said, I'm a huge fan of Modern, so I hope that I certainly understand the goal of highlighting the most current set because it tends to have the most exciting cards and accessibility. I would just encourage to maybe reconsider bringing back Modern at a certain point, because as I'm sure you know, Modern is huge right now. Modern is very diverse right now, and it's just so great to see it being played on such a large stage. And if I'm understanding you correctly also, Helene, is this Team Unified standard or just standard?
So our rules guru, just I'm talking about Scott Farabi, is currently working on the rules, but he's looking at just a Team Unified standard. Yes.
I also love the increase in Team Unified events. I know it's something that they're trying to do on the GP scene as well. And us being a 3-person cast, we've certainly joked about us doing things like this. And so I really applaud you all listening to that feedback and listening to people who said, we want to do this too. And it really seems like it's been a big hit.
Oh yeah, just and we will always listen, because at the end of the day, just we want to make sure Magic fans are just are excited about the events that we're bringing to them, and it's really in the domain, just the formats where we can try new things and gather the feedback, tweak back, and just change afterwards. We'll continue doing that.
Right, and if you could put in a good word for Golgari Grave Troll with R&D.
Right, I was going to say,
Aaron,
just
really
appreciate that.
You could maybe have just redo cover all the events.
For Modern.
I mean, if Rich Hagan should happen to fall on a banana peel in your short coverage, just have Reduke do it. Just have him do every event. That's my feedback. Just all Duke all the time.
Hashtag Baywatch. All right, so Ruben, you're up, buddy.
I wanted to add to the end of the WMCQ question that I just thought of just now. So apologies if this is sort of off the cuff, but don't worry. This is basically, when in the pro season is the WMCQ going to take place? And the reason why I ask is because gamers are going to game, and now we have the 6-person team system of the top team gets some amount of prize, and depending on so let's say 2 countries finish first and second in the World Magic Cup, they get some amount of pro points for that, I would assume. They could team up and be a 6-person team for the next season and already have this ridiculous points lead for the next team event. So I was wondering, if it's halfway through the season, I guess you can't really game the system like that. But I was wondering where, what sort of stopgap solutions you have to be able to prevent that kind of thing, and also where in the season the WMC is going to occur.
So we have already the slot for the World Magic Cup this year. As you know, it's we have announced it's going to be November, I believe, in Nice. And of course, just as the new system is going to be developed, we are going to look at the implication on the other competition. This year, what the situation that you are describing is exactly what you are talking about. Just the World Magic Cup will happen at the time where it's mid-season. But just it's definitely something that we are going to consider. I think that they are just we are going to be in the situation as well where the team, the pro team series will have reached a little bit more maturity, and that players will have a different perspective about how to build their teams, not necessarily going for the the easy short-term thing, really that structure that they feel comfortable with, because just like teaming with 5 other players for a whole season, it requires just like a lot of interactions, and you need to really to feel that just like you can have you want to spend that amount of time with the other players.
Makes sense.
But we'll see. Just like it's interesting feedback. Yeah.
All right, Ruben, you're still up, buddy.
Just trying to help out. As I know a lot of gamers, and I like gaming the system too. So I thought that would be.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking about.
Magic players never do that.
No, of course not. No, certainly not. Especially not when there's money on the line.
All right.
So moving on from the World Magic Cup, I want to talk about Grand Prix trials, which is that in-store GPTs, which have been around forever, even I think before Friday Night Magic, before I started playing.
Before F&M? Seriously? I didn't even know that.
GPTs were before I started playing.
They were probably about at the same time because, yeah.
Yeah, because I started playing before F&M existed, and I believe I played in a GPT right when I first... And in any case, that doesn't matter. But they are ending.
Yes.
In-store ones are ending. But they'll still be held on the Friday nights before the Grand Prix that they feed into. I think that this is an excellent change, but I think that it's an interesting timing for it. So why is the Grand Prix trial going the way of the Dodo in-store right now?
Well, so I was saying, just like when we are working on our planning for the next year, just like it's really the opportunity to take a hard look at programs. And Grand Prix trials, I will be very just like open about that. We have been looking at different ways to improve the program. So you have seen some tweaks about the frequency of events that stores could be running, the way they could schedule them and stuff like that. And we were not really looking at the improvements that I would hope. So that's why just like we were saying, hey, there will be a time where just like we should probably just like think about better way for players to get their buys. Now it seems that a lot of players have adopted the fact that they can get buys through their Planeswalker points, and we still have the events on site. So that's why we had made a decision for the year, and then looking at just like the way scheduling works. We were thinking that with the most elegant timeline to make the change would be after the trials for Grand Prix Vegas.
Okay.
It just like it was part of our yearly planning.
Sure.
That's awesome. For what it's worth, I mean, as someone who who had to build marketing plans for Grand Prix and things, and Grand Prix trials were included, and it was often a struggle to try to give them, sort of the weight and the spotlight, because you kind of want to highlight the stores, and then the stores want to run them at different times. They want to put them on top of other tournaments, and it's like, and it's kind of always been this sort of long, drawn out thing. But at the events, at the Grand Prix themselves, they're awesome.
Oh, of course. Makes
they're
perfect
fantastic.
sense.
For players, that's what they want when they get there. For organizers, that's what they want to run because it's great. That's fantastic. So I think this is a terrific change. Just want to
I appreciate. We really prefer the stores, being able to focus on programs that are really meaningful for everybody, as opposed because what you were describing, Ivan, is exactly what we're struggling with. Program being a little bit all over the place.
Right.
Well, I think I can also say from the local game store level, my store in particular had a difficult time with there was always that problem of my city doesn't get very many events to begin with. We don't really get IQs or 1Ks, and so oftentimes a GPT would come around and you would get to say the finals, and there's one person who really had no intention of going to the GP, but they simply just wanted to play an event, and then you had that one person who really could use the buys, and that led to a lot of awkward conversations of, well, if you're not going, can we work this out somehow? And so, placing the GPTs at the actual GP really eliminates those awkward conversations of people playing in the events that don't really want to go, and then taking the opportunity from people who do, and I think that's great.
And because you are touching a very good point, is the fact that we had an acceptance rate that was really low, which was telling us that number of players were playing in GPTs, but not necessarily to really attend that GP society.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough. And speaking of programming at Grand Prix that isn't the Grand Prix, Helene, you and I have a lot of experience getting to know each other at the Sunday Super Series. That was a interesting time for both of us. And the Sunday Super Series, or as we call it on this show, the Sunday Super Series has been
story here. Okay.
Sunset.
It's a character from Winnie the Pooh.
Don't worry about
it's a children's thing.
It's also an inside joke that I don't expect you to.
Our listeners will understand, though. Our diehard listeners will.
We did it for the listeners.
Yes. The Sunday Super Series has now gone out to pasture, and will in this announcement has been replaced by the return of the Sunday Grand Prix traditional style PTQ. Which, me personally, being a child of the early 2000s in the Midwest, I loved those. They were my bread and butter for a long time before the big Open Series kind of events started taking place. It's a great change, and I'm really looking forward to it returning. But it is a bit abrupt, and it's also returning to something that we've done before. So my first question for this would be: is this a trial period to see if this is a program that will work as it currently is, or is this going to be something that you do for the foreseeable future?
Well, we are, really implementing the change more like as something that we want to do in the foreseeable future. But as always, we always reevaluate if something was not meeting players' expectations. In the case of just a regular proto qualifier on Sunday of a GP, because we have done that before, I don't really see, what could go extremely wrong. But of course, we will monitor the feedback. Absolutely correct. And just like, it's interesting because we were discussing about, what would be a good offering for Sunday. That's the first thing that was mentioned about. People say, what about a proto qualifier? Just like having the chance to have this large tournament that you can spike and having your seat on the Pro Tour. The only thing is that we wanted to make sure that we would not face back the challenges that we have been facing with Pro Tour qualifiers in the past, where we had 400 persons and then it finishes at 1 a.m. It's a terrible experience for everybody, and that's why we have decided to put that cap and to be clear from the beginning, because I think that being very upfront and to manage everybody's expectation is the best way to just like deliver the best experience to the players.
Right. I noticed that there is that 225 person cap. So that cap is solid and will not change based on attendance of the Grand Prix, correct?
Well, it's not meant to, and the reason is that it's calculated so that we don't have to go past 8 rounds.
Excellent.
That's as simple as that.
Gotcha.
And specifically for Grand Prix Vegas, where there are 3 Grand Prix, will there only be 1 PTQ, or are there going to be 3 PTQs?
3 GPs, 3 PTQs.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's so cool.
Good to know.
Every spike is just flipping out right now.
Every super competitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was at
super
Grand
happy
Prix,
about
it's just
those.
what you did. You were just like,
Yeah.
oh, you scraped out the GP? Yeah, I'm PTQing tomorrow. Like it's just
Right.
it's just how it rolls. And so to solve the biggest problem, which is usually 400 or 500 person PTQs on the Sunday,
Right.
Which was a legitimate issue, seriously, when like half the room is playing
It
the
was.
PTQ the next day. It was crazy. But yeah, the PTQs being there is great. One of the other things, it's in the rear view, but I swear to this day, I can't remember if it's the Super Sunday Series or the Sunday Super Series.
Yeah.
If you held a gun, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's fine. Anyway.
There were a number of things that made the Super Sunday Super Standard Sealed Series kind of awkward. And one of them that we'll focus on here because we're looking forward to the new PTQs is that the Sunday Super Series was sometimes not the same format as the Grand Prix. Is that going to... So the PTQs, will they be the same as the Grand Prix? Will they be the same as the PTQ season that they're currently in? Are they always going to be standard? What format are the PTQs going to be?
So just like so that it's like the most logical way to handle the formats for the players. We felt that is to make sure that if the Grand Prix is constructed, the format of the PTQ will be constructed. If it's sealed, it's going to be sealed.
Gotcha.
But is it going to be the same?
I also dislike.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So if it's like, so for example, if it's a modern GP, can we expect a modern PTQ, or will it be a modern GP and there's a possibility of like a standard PTQ? Because you would say constructed.
We're more likely to follow the same formats as we have for the PPTQ and RPTQ seasons, so that plugs in very, very logically.
Okay.
So if the format, but still constructed and limited. But this is why I was trying to present it this way. So let's say that the PPTQ or PTQ season is modern, just like is standard. Sorry, I was talking because your question was about standard. The PTQ at the Pro Tour, at the GP, sorry. The PTQ at the GP is going to be standard as well.
Okay, that's great.
So in the specific case of Grand Prix Vegas, for example, where it's 3 different formats for the Grand Prix, but for the PTQs, it's going to be 3 back-to-back of the same format?
Well, it's not going to be the case because you have one limited GP.
Sure. So we have a limited GP, we have a legacy GP, and we have a standard GP. So the legacy and the standard...
No, modern. It's legacy, modern.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Legacy, modern, limited. So for the legacy and the modern...
They are going to be the same format, and I don't know at the top of my head what is like the format of a specific qualifying season. And then
just curious.
It'll follow the season, is what you're saying.
Gotcha. It'll follow the seasons. I was just clarifying.
If it's constructed, that'll be it. Yeah. Otherwise, if it's limited, it's limited.
I got excited for a legacy PTQ there. It's just like, oh my word. Just,
ooh, boy.
Right.
Yeah, but that would be a little bit awkward. Just like you qualify for a format and then you play the Pro Tour, a very different format. So it's not exactly logical.
Makes sense.
If you are just like if it's not clear, also the Pro Tour qualifier is going to qualify for the same Pro Tour as the GP. So like this, everything is aligned this way.
Good.
Gotcha.
And it's
Makes
like,
sense.
we're talking like an old school GP or PTQ, as in like I win, I get the invite and the plane ticket, right?
Yeah.
It's just like exactly the way it used to to function. Yeah, before we switched to the PPTQ and RPTQ system. Absolutely.
Right, that is terrific. All right. So there was something. So I watched the Pro Tour coverage over the weekend. And it was great. But I wanted to note one thing that didn't happen. And I actually want to note this because I recall very clearly at one point there was a Pro Tour, and then there were announcements at that Pro Tour, and then our show the next week was like literally all about the announcements and oh yeah, this guy won the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Poor Steve Rubin.
So this time there were no big announcements at the Pro Tour, and I actually think that it was a terrific change. Everybody got to focus on the players. I thought it was fantastic. So high five on that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. We were just like, we want to make sure that actually the stars are the players. Everybody just like, focus on the top 8 because that's a big moment in a Pro Tour. So it's true that just like big announcements were getting lots of visibility, but they were also creating some distraction from what was happening during the top 8.
Absolutely, and I think, and again, I remember when that happened, and I was like, man, I kind of feel bad. This guy like won the Pro Tour, we just barely
Not only did that happen, but also the documentary came out that week, and that was like our 5th topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough.
It's nice that things aren't buried quite as much in weeks in which there's already a ton of news. That's the bottom line on that one.
So this was the first Pro Tour since like the Twitch agreement, the Twitch involvement announcement had come out. And it definitely felt like someone had kicked up things notches. There was the colors, the colored lights and things, the way that they handled transitions, the way they went down to the floor, there was the way the graphics showed up and whatnot. It definitely felt like there was a little bit different of a vibe. Was that, I guess one of the questions was, was Twitch involved in any of that stuff? And if it was, how was that relationship?
So we have started our partnership with Twitch very recently, and we are just getting started. So they were not directly involved in this event, but if you have watched the coverage, you have seen that we made sure that they were, we had some representative of Twitch. They were just like on site, and also they had a short interview during the on Sunday, I believe. So we are just getting started, and it's exactly the type of feedback that we want to get from them by working closely with Twitch to look at every single opportunity that we have to improve the quality of the coverage. If you remember, I'm pretty sure that you're aware of the fact that Twitch is hiring a program manager for Magic. So it's
I'm aware.
one of the people on this podcast may or may not have applied for that job.
I may or may not have had 4 interviews for that job, but I'm not getting that job. Just to be clear.
Yeah, and that's because just like we want to have a very close partnership. It's all about just like not only delivering more content, because I'm sure that you have seen the full coverage schedule that we have for this year. It's not about more content, but it's also the quality of the content. And teaming up with a company like Twitch is going to bring us a lot of additional insights and perspective about things that we can do better to just like to offer the more entertaining content. But we've been thinking a lot about already like small tweaks here and there, but consider Dublin as being just like step one of many.
It's a big step.
It was a great step. I am certainly excited for the future if that's step one.
Will the increased relationship with Twitch change anything about the relationship that Wizards has with non-United States-based streaming services like Nico and the Chinese streaming sites?
Just like they continue doing their commentary in their respective languages, so in Japanese and Chinese. There is no change in that direction. No, that's a good question. But,
so the team series thing happened this time. And wow, seriously, wow! It's just there's a level of involvement and caring and sort of camaraderie and picking teams and who's on what. The branding was great. Wow. Helene, I can only imagine being there. That the energy must have been electrifying.
Oh, it has been amazing because just like this program is something that actually we built with the group of pro players that I was talking about, because listening to what could change and stuff like that, and so I came up with that concept, and then we took a few months to work on it. And Bradley was saying still change for the Magic players, because yes, they do play as teams, but it's a big step. So we were just like targeting, just like the goal was saying, hey, if we have 15 teams, we'll be happy. We had 32 teams. Just like it was amazing to see the applications that were just like arriving and reaching us, and looking at how creative the teams had been to create their logos, reach out to new sponsors. It's the first time that we're seeing Magic getting that dimension by getting the attention outside of our micro world. So it was very, very exciting before the event. But then when we were at the event itself, our photographer was just like making all these shots of the team, and it's exactly what you were saying. We were seeing that energy. People were just like cheering each other. It really brought a brand new dimension. So very happy with the start, but now we have to find more and more ways of how we can engage also with the fans, because we got a lot of very interesting ideas about how we can make also the coverage more interesting, so that it's easier for people at home to understand how the different teams are doing. So, but no, I have to really say I'm happy also because we have a very good international representation. We have lots of different countries that were represented. So yeah, I'm glad you liked it. And if you have anything that you say, hey, we would love to see that, please let us know.
Well, look,
I definitely.
It's the.
I was
Go
going to add
ahead,
some
Aaron.
feedback real quick. I felt like I noticed a trickle down effect, and I like to use the phrase "step your cookie up," and I feel like everybody involved stepped their cookie up. We noticed the commentators looking better than we'd ever seen them look before. The jerseys were a really fantastic look on the players. We were noticing that the players were showing more of their personalities. Like they knew that when they were doing the deck tech, you need to turn it up to 10. Like you need to be interesting, and you need to make people want to watch you. On social media, you were seeing guys who don't normally promote themselves tweet, this is my brand, this is who's sponsoring me. It was just a consistent effort to step it up, and it was just so great to see everything firing on all cylinders. Normally it's like one thing is really stellar and then everything else might be kind of lagging a little bit, but everybody was just determined to like bring it, and that was really great for us at home to see.
Oh, cool.
I mean,
Yeah, it's really great when a plan comes together.
For me, I would basically say, like, it's. I've talked about a dress code a lot.
We have.
We
lot.
It
And
is
it's
one of the
very
themes.
close. It's getting. We're gonna keep going. Now, look. What I would note
And
is
it's getting to the point where when we talk about it on the show, even audience members who like us a lot are like, another dress code conversation.
Again.
But I think we're definitely getting there. Don't get me wrong. And I would also note that I think that there were certain teams that I think who did it better than others, and part of it was just, I think, from the material. I think Team Face to Face. I think Channel Fireball. Like the really nice sort of jersey material that looks very much like a jersey, as you would imagine a jersey. Having that
Esports
material,
jersey,
having that esports material, I think it was a big step in really legitimizing what the teams sort of meant, what they felt like, what they looked like. And the teams that didn't have that kind of polish, I felt didn't look as good. So, if you were able to encourage them to get whatever types of jerseys that those teams had, it's for the betterment not only of them.
Joneses on their own.
It's for the betterment of the look of the Pro Tour. Is all I'm saying.
Just like we want also the teams to feel comfortable with the uniform that we design, and it's the very first time that we're seeing something like that. So I would not be surprised that just like it's going to encourage everybody just to step up, because Magic players are competitive, as you know.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And we
There's a
hope
whole
that the
nother
cookie
competition.
goes that way.
Yeah.
The cookie must be
The
stepped
last thing that I'll add about the team series before, Evan, we can go to the last little bullet point there was the outside of Magic the Gathering sponsorship, particularly MTG Puzzle Quest and Mass Drop, were the two that stuck out to me. Is another common theme on our podcast of getting outside sponsors like the other esports have. Has there been any effort within Wizards to try to attract non-Magic the Gathering sponsors, or is that sort of something that came about organically?
Oh, absolutely. Just like, we want to up our game. Just like, it's all about just like professionalizing further our Premier Play, just as scene and everything. So the Pro Tour Team Series is part of that. Development of content is another one. And we're actually just like starting collaborating with Twitch, just like to go after just like sponsorships, because that's the logical evolution of Magic as a competitive game. You're absolutely correct.
Awesome.
That's so exciting. That's super exciting. Just saying.
Yep.
All right. So last thing I want to talk about was you guys have new leadership. We got new president. That's a big thing. That's top of the pile there. So and often with new leadership comes a culture change. Sometimes it doesn't, but oftentimes it does. So tell me, how's it like sort of living in the Chris Cox sort of era at this point? Like, he's kind of settled in, I think, and I think you're starting to see some of the changes that he's trying to implement over time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And just like the very first thing that, I've seen is just like, because we're talking here about more just like the Premier Play arena and what I'm working on directly. We were just like super excited to have Chris joining us at a Pro Tour in Sydney. He was there just like for an event. He also stopped by in Dublin. So he's really just like very, very engaged in all the different aspects of Magic, and specifically the event and the evolution into a bigger arena for Magic. So that's obviously super exciting, and just like it feels like we are just about just like to take another step with Magic, which is like something which is extremely energizing, because Magic has been around for a number of years, and it felt that we have been constantly trying just like to do new things and to take new approach, and all of a sudden it feels like, oh yeah, but maybe we are just starting stretching the surface. And it's how it feels just like having that new direction. In a way, we were talking about formats before. So if I can make a parallel with formats, for a number of years, we have been just like having a level of focus that has been very good for Magic, because we became very good in a specific format, and that helped us establish a very strong bench for developing further the brand. With Chris being on board now, it feels like saying, oh, now maybe it's time to look at all the different things that we can do and play with different
Get
formats.
better at the other formats. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So that's the way I would present it, but just like
I like it.
yeah, it's just like Magic has so much potential. It's such a rich game, such a rich environment, and we are just like having now a very robust community. So it's just as if we are going to see lots of great things for Magic in the future. And Chris has been starting to be also starting making some announcements. So you will start hearing from us on a more regular basis, which is also something which is a difference with the way we have been communicating in the past.
Wow, that's great. And plus, per the Hasbro quarterly earnings call and whatnot, Magic's doing super great.
Yeah.
Which is
It's
fantastic.
very encouraging. It's very encouraging to see not only that information direct from the parent company, but also to see the new president take an interest in the competitive scene, because that's one of those conspiracy theories is, oh no, we're never going to see the Pro Tour again. But I think that if the president is showing up at the Pro Tour interested in developing the professionals, then that's a good sign for the future as well.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So we can't turn the corner to
the finisher.
To the finisher, unfortunately.
No.
But we will thank you, Helene, very, very much for hanging out with us this entire time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
for
your
inviting
time.
me. It was great to chat.
Awesome. So we are going to take it to our final slide here. I want to thank you guys very much for joining us here to chat with Helene Bergeot from Wizards of the Coast. We could talk a little bit about this sweet announcement. You'll find the announcement on wizards.com. We'll put a link in the description. Otherwise, thank you guys very much, and we will see you for our next regular broadcast.